Well, it's something special to have a railway actually at the bottom of the garden, quite literally. The train crews were very well known to their customers and their passengers. We invited the guard and the driver to come over and have tea and cake with us. And as a result of that, we got invited on board to have a trip back up the line. And during that time, he said, "Would you like to have a go?" So, unofficially, of course. And so in order for me not to be seen by any passing traffic, he just opened his jacket and put it around the window so that I couldn't be seen from outside, which is quite clever. And then about a week before the railway closed, I went over there, and it was the evening trip at 7:30 to Kemble. There were no passengers, so the lights were turned out, and the driver said, you can drive us. So he and the guard sat on the cushions by the side in the seat and had a cigarette. Well, I drove the thing all the way from Tetbury to Kemble, which was quite an experience really, and one never to be experienced again, I don't think, especially not today.
Every Christmas and every summer we came from Windsor back to Westonbirt, where my grandfather was the curator of the Arboretum, and I remember being on the train coming into Tetbury, and it was quite an event in those days. I mean, to travel from Windsor and end up in Westonbirt in the evening, it was like moving to a different world. The carriages were so characterful because there were corridors and compartments, and a classic job really, and always quite a few people using it.
We go to Tetbury to catch the steam train into Kemble and then change trains into Cirencester, and then we'd go swimming in the open air pool in Cirencester. Probably 10 or 12, quite a young man, but it was on the old steam train. When we got on the Tetbury line, which we pick up at Kemble, it was the old steam train. It had these windows that you could let down on leathers, and you could put your trunks and towels in and pull them to the top, and all the trunks and towels were hanging out the windows, and the train was going by and the steam was just hooching past the towel. I'm sure it must have looked quite a sight from the road as the train was going along.
We were all going to Stroud Technical College. On the train we used to have a bit of fun, their boys used to put us up in their luggage racks, especially at the station in Kemble, because we always used to play with all the trolleys. We used to wheel each other around, whizzing around, racing around the station. It sounds childish, but we were young, so I suppose, we used to have a bit of fun.
My father was one of the Air Ministry staff that took over the school, and we'd been to Gloucester in the train, which meant getting to Kemble and then to Gloucester and back again. Well, this was 1940, yeah. And we were sitting in a carriage waiting to go, because this old carriage, it was gas lit, wasn't electric, it had a big gas lamp. And then the air raid siren went, and they switched all the lights off, and we sat in the train for 3 hours. And when they put the light back on, I contracted German measles. Apparently I had a big rash and hot and bothered, and the chap next to me moved a bit, and German measles.
My uncle worked on the railway line at the time, an uncle Leonard, and he was a guardsman. It was always nice to see the family waving the flag.
One of them things that you went on the railway because your whole family nearly was on the railway. That was the thing. It was sort of a traditional thing, It's very good. It's more or less a family sort of job. You help one another very often down here.
I was 16 years old, and my uncle had previously worked down here, and then my brother Gordon came down here, and he left, so I came to work on the railway. was a cleaner on the night shift. We started at 10 o'clock at night, and then we came down here and we raked the firebox out and all those things, and bunkered, filled it with coal. You had special little squares that you put the cotton waste in the middle of wood, and that would be to light the fire at 4 o'clock in the morning. The driver came in at 6 o'clock, so it was something past 7 before it actually went, but his job was to do all the oil boxes and all the bits and pieces. So he would know if you'd been cleaning the engine underneath, because he had to get under there to do the oiling.
I enjoyed it while I was here. Things were quite easy to fire down here, really. And you got to know the passengers as well as all the people on there, you know, that worked on the railway.
The train sometimes would almost wait for you. The train, you could be approaching it and they wouldn't go till you got on it, which is absolutely fantastic. There's no whistle and you're gone. They wouldn't leave you behind. They'd just wait for you to come on down the hill. Come on, lads, go on down. And off we would.
You could see the people coming running down the road to the trains in the morning, and we did wait for people. If you were expecting somebody, the engine driver, Mr. Woodward, most of the time, would be looking at his watch, trying to get it out as far as he could so that people wouldn't miss the train. And it has been known for him to stop and then back up and pick up passengers.
Yeah, the train stopped at Trouble House every day to pick my friend Janet Peer, whose father had Trouble House at the time. As we approached Lark Hill, just past Lark Hill, he would toot the horn, and even then we still had to wait outside Trouble House for Janet to come running across the road to board the train to come to college with us. You know, we picked people up at Rodmartin, there were people from Taunton.
Bit of an experience that was, because one of the winters was a very, very hard winter, and we had a job to get out of the railway yard here because of the snow and ice and everything. It was so cold. Over on the allotments, the pigeons would be roosting on the Brussels sprouts, and they'd freeze to death and fall off because it was so cold. It was bitter cold down here. The old boy who's worked in the Dolphins in the office, he said, this is the coldest place in the winter and the hottest place in the summer.
I believe that the whole reason for coming was for polo at what is now the Beaufort Polo Club, and he brought, as we understand it, the polo ponies on the train from London to Kemble, where they would be unloaded and loaded onto the Tetbury Branch Line and brought to Tetbury, where they were unloaded and then ridden or led to Westonbirt. The two rooms on the front with the bay windows, which were then rooms 14 and 18, when my father bought the hotel, the oak beds were apparently made for and to the Maharaja's specification, and they were still there when we sold the hotel in 2008.
It come down to Tetbury, and 43 carriages, trucks it brought down, but they unloaded the furniture, and they took the furniture up to Beverton Castle, and they had 3-wheel scamels. But when they got up there, they found that they couldn't get in through the archway, so they unloaded all the furniture outside, and all the boys and girls in the village, younger boys and everybody, helped them carry into the castle itself. But the horses, they were taken up, walked up, and the cows, they were taken up in the trucks.
That would have been in 46, and I can remember him riding the horses from the railway down Chawton Road to Beverston. and they had lorries to take the cattle. There's a herd of Ayrshires, Ayrshire dairy cows. Yeah, and they took them up to Beverston.
So we used to put it onto the wagons and take it back up, and used to steam all the way through Tetbury and go up to the town hall and all the way to Beverston. And going up the Beverston road, the cows could smell it, and they used to run up the side of the fence trying to get out, which wasn't very popular with the farmers.
There were loads of people here. All the children were put in the goods van, and all the adults were put in the carriage. Mr. Woodward, who lived opposite me, he was driving the train. And off we went. We went all the way up to the Globe, and on the way up, they put some detonators on the line, because it was the last train, I suppose, and frightened us to death. It was a tremendous noise. And then we went on to Trouble House. They stopped then, and the doors was open on the goods van, and all the children, we all looked out, and because the adults, there was a very short platform, they all got out, and I can remember seeing all the men and the ladies going across, weaving across the Trouble House, and all us children were in the goods van. We couldn't get out because there was no platform, and it was far too difficult to jump down. And, I remember I was only just about 8 or 9 at the time, and we wanted to go home. In the end, they did come out, and we all got back on the train, and went back down to the station here, and we walked our way home in the dark. We were very late that night, but we did have a lot of fun, I will say. And that was the last trip that I went on the steam train.
It was after that the rail car came in. It started off well, but towards the end it wasn't as favourite as it should have been. And people were going to Kemble, catch train in their own car, in their own time, and slowly faded away until 1964, finished.
Well, a group of us got along at Carlton and put a bale of straw on the track and set fire to it. Well, when the diesel electric come down, the last passenger train, it had to stop. And I think Eric Ford was the guard, and they used the extinguishers to put this fire out. Well, of course, it took a while. And whilst they were doing that, we come on into Tetbury. We got up the other end of the goods yard, and it started another bit of fire. And so they got down to there, no extinguishers. So they had to wait while we was then able to board the train. So we had the last ride on the last passenger train.
I suppose I hadn't really taken on board the fact that the railway as such was closing completely, and it was not just the withdrawal of the passenger service, but actually the abandonment of the whole line. And eventually, during the summer, this gang came and started to take the whole thing up, and all the scrappable stuff was removed. So that was the end. But I suppose up until that point, I'd never quite grasped the fact that it was closed for good. Yeah, it was sad. But the station master's desk, which I've got in here, that cost me 7 and 6pence. The little instrument that's behind me that was originally in the signal box, 1 or 2 lamps and things which I used to polish for the guards, and they gave me one as a prize. And the train staff, which is here, which was introduced in 1926 as a simpling of the signalling on the branch, and virtually replaced this signal box that we're sitting in at the moment. That's probably my prized possession. That cost me 6 shillings.
The train was, I think, a useful commodity, and today it would be even more useful, I think, for commuters.
There was something about the noise and watching the smoke coming up through the valley as you approached, because Tetbury's got a lovely station set in a little valley at the end of a quarry, and there was always something magical about what was happening there.
I must admit, I had a great interest in steam. It is a wonderful thing, and it stays with you for the rest of your life. I think I could still get on an engine and do the things I did years ago. Yeah.